Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. We're going to take a look this time at a Protectobot. This is the 1986 Autobot Scout Groove. Now, Groove was released in 1986. He would be available as well in 1987, and he would be discontinued in 1988. As you can see, Groove obviously comes out of a motorcycle, so that's an interesting addition to the Transformer line. Since we really didn't get very many motorcycles in the toy line, unlike its main competition, the GoBots, which had about 4 motorcycles. Groove here is a pacifist amongst the Autobots and the Protectobots in particular, so he does not like to be involved in battle. So that makes it a very difficult thing for him to deal with. And it's also one of the more reoccurring themes that have been used a lot in some of Hasbro's toy lines. As G.I. Joe had a couple of characters that were known pacifists, Doc and Lifeline, but both of them were medics, so it was understandable as to why they did not want to be involved in battle. But for Groove, as he's a scout, that gives him his reason to avoid it, as the best scouts tend to not get caught. But if he does get spotted, he is going to have to use whatever tricks he can come up with to get out of the fight. Taking a look at his articulation, and as you would expect for a combiner component, he doesn't have very much going for him. In fact, it's pretty much limited to his arms. You move his arm all the way up like that, but it can go almost all the way around if you move the motorcycle piece behind him. But unfortunately, it's this little indentation in here that prevents his arm from going anywhere. Plus, as you can see, he's also one of those that has his fists to the side instead of straight up, so you can only mount his gun the one way. Although the package illustrations do show the gun mounted here on the outside edge, but the hole here is really not big enough to hold the gun, so I don't want to force it in the fear that I might break it. So instead, we'll just go ahead and transform Groove. Of course, first thing we got to do is remove all of his weapons. Take his arms and fold them down to the side. You're going to take his head and push it backward a little. Come back here, grab the motorcycle front, rotate it, and then bring it down in front of his head. Then next we're going to pop his feet free, slide them together, and then fold them over and snap them into place. And then here we have Groove's alternate mode. As stated earlier, it is a motorcycle. It's based off of the look of the Honda Goldwing motorcycle. And so far, I haven't found any examples of it being used as a highway patrol motorcycle, despite the somewhat sheriff-looking badge here that's put on the sides of the motorcycle. Of course, you can also arm Groove in this mode by attaching his larger guns onto the sides. And that doesn't look too bad. Of course, you can also rotate them to point backwards to deal with tailgaters. He's got some wide plastic wheels, so that allows him to stand up by himself, so that's always a nice treat. And how well does he roll? He rolls very good. Very good for a toy motorcycle. Now, most people wouldn't expect that, especially since a fair number of the GoBot ones were not known for being able to stand upright on their own. So this is a nice treat and a good improvement over the competition. Before we take a look at Groove's loose parts, we do want to point out that there is a variation available on Groove, and that is dependent on what color his chest is made out of. This here is the gold chest. This would be the earlier metal version of the toy. Later versions would have a silver chest that would be made of plastic. All part of the transitional phase Hasbro went through in 1986. Anyways, let's take a look at his loose pieces. We'll start with his gun. Card contents describe this as a photon pistol, which was the standard armament for most of the Protectobots. It's more or less the same on the opposite side, but it also, once I drop it on the floor, has the post here on the side, so it can only really be attached to Groove's right hand, or he can hold it upside down in his left hand. A feature I've never been a fan of on any toy. So the less said about that, the better. And then, of course, we have the larger cannons. There's a right one and a left one. They're more or less both the same. These are his twin Vaporator cannons. And they shoot various liquids out at enemies. That's how he can fight. In battle, he'll just squirt various liquids on them. And those are Groove's accessories. Now we'll take a look here at Groove's file card. Move him aside for a second. And this is one of the later variants of the card, as it was one that used the advertising of having a free iron-on reflective patch. This particular one was sold at a KB Toys for about $5. It's got some pretty decent artwork on there. On the back side here, we have a little yellow box that describes the rules for the contest. Next to it is the robot points. As a combiner component, he was only worth half a point. And it shows off the other Protectobots to form Defensor. And then we come down here, start to look at all the pieces he comes with, how to make him an attack bike. And then, of course, how to transform him. And down here, how to arm him up with all the weapons. And again, they're attaching the pistol in a way that, on mine, it cannot be done. How to put the stickers on him. And lastly, how to deal with the rub sign and clipping the robot points. Then down here we have his tech spec. It's done up in red to show he's an Autobot. It says he's a Protectobot. And of course the picture here matches the one on the front of the card. It gives his name as Groove, and his function is Scout. His motto is, "War is a problem, never a solution. A full tank, clear skies, open road. That's all he wants out of life. Relaxed, easygoing, happy wherever he is. Pacifist. Difficult for him to accept his role as part of the Protectobot team. Speed 140 miles per hour. Range 800 miles. Uses twin vaporators, which shoot mists of oxidizing, freezing, and corrosive liquids, and photon pistol. Combines with fellow Protectobots to form Defensor. So, it's nice to see he is somewhat capable of defending himself. But let's put him to the test by looking at the grid with the decoder on. It shows that his strength is 4, his intelligence is 9, his speed is 5, his endurance is 7, his rank is 6, his courage is 8, his firepower is 6, and his skill is 7. So he's about average, just a little weak in the strength department. So now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of Groove? Groove is certainly an interesting addition to the team. As being more of a pacifist in nature, that certainly is going to bring him into conflict with some of the others among the team, like most specifically Blades, who is an out-and-out street fighter. More Than Meets the Eye guide suggests that Groove is somewhat friends with First Aid, the team's doctor, due to the fact that they both share similar anti-war views. But they both also realize that deep down, they have to fight the Decepticons in order to defeat them. And if they aren't defeated, there will never be any peace again. So they have to use that knowledge to reluctantly motivate themselves to keep going in the good fight. The problem is that First Aid can accept it more than what Groove can. Groove tends to let his mind wander a bit, and that's especially worsened when he's merged with the others into Defensor, as by letting his mind wander, he's letting that component of the combined unit's brain drift off as well, and that can negatively affect Defensor in the heat of battle. But even with a lot of the high points of this toy, this one does have a good amount of lows. Namely, again, comes down to articulation. The articulation is very poor, even for a combiner component. But he does gain some points for the fact that he does have a rather unique alternate mode, as Groove was the first motorcycle to be included in the Transformers toy line. And as a motorcycle, he is capable of self-supporting, so that's always a nice touch, since many motorcycle toys were always a disappointment because they couldn't stay standing up by themselves. They needed supported against something else, or they just fell over. So it's nice to see one that is capable of self-standing. So if nothing else, that helps move Groove more into the middle tier. I was going to put him in the bottom, but the alternate mode helps save Groove a lot in this instance. The biggest thing that a lot of people are going to probably complain about is, again, having a pacifist in an assault team or a military-themed toy line. But, as Hasbro did prove they could do it with their previous toy line, it's nice to see that they do continue it here. But again, that's just my opinion. And if you'd like to share yours, please do so respectfully on it down in the comments section below. Anyway, that concludes my review of the 1986 Autobot Scout Groove. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked this video, drop me a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button down below to join our ranks. Also, ring the notification bell so you'll be notified when I post new content. Also, please consider sharing your thoughts about Groove in the comments down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.